He is the king of Philadelphia. It is the great Anthony Gargano. He is heard on The Fanatic in Philly, also on Fox Sports Radio nationally. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at FSR. And your show, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. weekdays, if I'm not mistaken. Then you've got the
Yes, you're
Saturday
right on.
show, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern with Lincoln Kennedy. But if I found myself in a South Philly sports bar in normal times right now, and I go next to the person beside me and I say, hey, what do you think about Ant Gargano? Like, what do you think about that guy on the air? What do you think they're going to tell me?
Oh, I know him. He's a buddy of mine. He's going to get you a beer right now. Hold on, here's a drink for you. Part of now I started my career. I grew up in South Philly and started my career in Chicago and then in New York as a writer, and then found my way back to Philadelphia. So it's been kind of an odd journey. I was in New York for a long time, and then you come home, and then I've been with Fox for such a long time with Lincoln. So we're the fellas, as we like to call our show. That's kind of how we run our show.
The fellas, according to Lincoln Kennedy, who I had on a couple days ago and was asking him about the show, is certainly a way to describe the comfortable atmosphere of like a bar setting when you're listening to your radio show. He said the reason you guys are so good and have been so long tenured is you have the passion, you know a lot about a lot of things, and you're stubborn about your opinions, and you're going to stay in your ground. And so, create some good riffs on the radio. From your perspective, Ant, what is it about the way you and Lincoln mesh that makes for compelling radio?
Well, it was funny. I think you'll appreciate this. The idea when you meet someone and you just click with them right away.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's Kismet doesn't just happen between, a man and a woman, right? Like, Kismet can happen between two souls, right? It's two friends. It's, someone you connect with. There's an amazing connection. And so Link and I had that immediate connection. And we worked together for a good 3 months. And then we've been on the air together, I think, for like at least 11, 12 years. And we met at the Army Navy game in DC, and we stayed out all night, and then we partied. He's like, let's go to the bar, let's go hang out, and then we talked. We sat like it was like a nice temperate night, and he's like, "Yo, I want to have a cigar." I go, "I'm in, man." So we sat smoking a cigar, just BSing, for a couple hours till about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, oh man. And we're actually born a day apart.
That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. So we're like, we really are that separated at birth kind of two dudes. Except he's a lot bigger than me.
So when I look at you, and I look at you as Ben Simmons with a jump shot, what I mean by that is you've got the radio game, you've also got the writing game. So you've got like two different skill sets. Usually, Ben Simmons, I don't know, he's got a jump shot, but you've got both. So what fostered your love of writing? I know you've done movies. I know you've done screenplays. And how have you poured yourself into that avenue?
That was really my first love for a long time. So I was a writer for the AP in Chicago. I covered a lot of Chicago sports. I was in Chicago for like three and a half years. And then from there I went to New York, and then I was at the Post. I covered the Mets, and they were awful. And I'll never forget, I worked for this guy. He was a great guy. This guy, Greg Gallo, who was the old school New York tabloid newspaper guy. And he used to tell me, take your pink panties off when you write. You use too many adjectives. And he's like, how come you write like pretty? We're in the Post. It was hysterical. So, but he did take me off the Mets beat. So they had a Sunday paper. And so they said, listen, we're going to be starting a Sunday paper again. We want you to write these 5,000 word essays every Sunday. And so I would go around the country. It was pretty cool because I covered all the national events, and then I would pick a subject and write. so I would be I'd stay, like, I'd be in LA, and they go, go to, I remember sitting with Kobe. I did a Kobe, like everybody else did, right? But I knew Kobe a little bit from Philly.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, listen, I said, I need, can we have to hang out? And he's like, I have to go to the airport. I'm meeting the team, but you could drive with me. So, but, and LA traffic, right?
Yeah.
So I got in his car and we hung out. And then, we hung out for a couple hours in his car while we drove to the airport. And then I cabbed it back to the hotel. And it was great. Like, I do stuff like that. And they'd say, all right, well, go cover the Rose Bowl, right? And then go do this, go hang out with, man, I did a Jordan thing where I followed them for 2 weeks. I did all their road trips, and I covered it from the eye of the like, they were the rock stars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all the people that would gather at these hotels, and how they would go in the back entrance, and then you would have all these people waiting, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like this whole scene. Like, so I really did, like, more of a scene perspective, and it was really interesting. I did a lot of boxing, a lot of fights, hung out with Tyson and Vegas. So that was a pretty cool gig. And it gave me traveling. I was on the road for 300 nights a year. So it gave me such a different perspective of really the bigness of the world, which ultimately helps as a talk show host, right? Because I've spent so much time in a lot of different cities, great sports cities. And so, I've had drinks in every city just about. I can tell you where to go in Cincinnati, in St. Louis, in Phoenix, San Francisco, Seattle. So it's cool, and I kind of married my love of sport and writing in a lot of ways.
Anthony Gargano with us, host at The Fanatic and Fox Sports Radio. I'm Bryan Fenley. What about your acting career? How would you grade that?
My acting career, it's not.
Didn't you do a little something
I did.
a
I've
couple
done a couple
times?
things. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love story, so I kind of like doing that. I got typecast as a mob guy, but hey, what are you gonna do? So I'm writing. I wrote a. Right now, I'm working on a TV show. In fact, tonight I have a producer who is calling me, and he said, can you do 10 o'clock to 10:30 your time? I'm like, yeah, all right. So we're trying to develop this TV series. Now, I've written a movie that's in the can. We're waiting. COVID really hurt the production. We were about to go into production, and then COVID shut it down. And it's a pretty cool movie. It's about in the early 80s in Philadelphia, there was a group called the Junior Black Mafia. And there was a vacuum in the underworld. And especially this one guy who went to Temple, really smart business guy. He puts together a crew. And it's right when crack hits. And they form this whole, and they model it after the Italian Mafia. And they were called the JBM. And so the movie's called The Bottom, and which is a neighborhood in West Philly, where it started. And so it's pretty cool. It's really rich. It's got a lot of texture to it. And then the series is basically Game of Thrones meets Narcos.
Oh,
with
wow.
all these criminal groups that were real groups in the 70s. I love the period pieces because there are so many more characters, vivid characters, and really interesting storylines, three-dimensional people. So that's what the TV show is about.
If a casual fan could take a visit and a trip inside your mind, what are they going to find?
I got my 2 kids and my wife, right? So they're here, front lobe, right? They're the glue, right? And then there's sports because I'm a geek and I love sports, right? I love it. I love it. And then I have this weird story. So you go through a labyrinth, which is pretty weird. So you got a shelter, and then writing all about crime and stuff. You dream a lot of getting shot. So
Well,
So it's not a fun trip.
Where do you do your best thinking for writing?
I'm sitting at my kitchen table right now.
That's where you do it.
Literally at my kitchen table in front of my laptop.
That's
Right
amazing.
now. We're talking, right. So, because I have to get something done. So I was like, well, and this I usually write from my kitchen table, right near my espresso machine.
What people don't realize, or actually a lot of people realize, is that you have like created your own language. Like you have a glossary of a lot of different terms that you use, and it has each one of them their own definition. How many words do you have? Because and you got like yos, and other words that you use as well. Like how many different
Well, you know what
jargon
they
terms
are?
of
I'll tell you, it's a medley of stuff that I grew up around.
okay.
So it's funny. Like I've probably taken a lot of the stuff and kind of molded it. And we used to call a player, like an athlete that wasn't a popular player but was cool and you kind of liked him, as a boxed out guy. And then, like, if you haven't thought about a player in a long time, he would be like, Penny Hardaway. Oh, you
Yeah.
bust out, man. That's a bust out name. I haven't thought about it in a long time. So that's like, kind of that kind of coolness that comes with a player or somebody. So we would throw all kinds of sort of the vernacular, and then these characters, growing up around these characters and knowing a lot of these characters, they all have a special kind of weird cadence and a gift of gap. I mean, the lines come out. And so, being a writer and a talk show host, you're trained for your ear, right? To hear a lot of the language and the use of language. So these lines kind of stay with you.
That's fascinating.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. The role growing up that your mom played in your life, and how without what she did, you wouldn't be where you are. How would you put into words what she means to you to this day and what she's done
Oh
for you?
man. Yeah, she was great. She passed away in actually it was the day after Michael Jackson. Oh my
Oh
God, it
wow.
was crazy. Yeah. And she had a tough illness and she had kind of withered away very sadly. And she was like this beautiful, vibrant soul who was very nurturing, right? So, you know, when you have someone that's so nurturing, she caught my first foul ball. She used to take you to the game, take us to the games all the time. So we walk. You want to go to the game? Yeah, let's go to Phillies game, and we'd walk to the ball game. And I remember her catching. It was against the Cubs, and because some guy named Steve Ontiveros, who was like a middle infielder, a foul ball. She went and got it, and she was like a little thin kind of woman, and she grabbed it with long nails, and and grabbed the ball, and she always like she fostered anything you're into, and I think that's kind of the best thing about
Mhm.
parenting is that if you see a gift or that your kid is really digging something he's in, you just foster the love, right? And so she made you think you could actually go make a living talking about sports, which was unheard of. Like my father told me, you're going to go to college and you're going to go to study marketing, right? And like there was no, you got to get a job, right? There was no, dream of writing. How you going to make a living writing? How you going to make a living talking about sports or writing about sports? Come on, we didn't have any media people in the family, so but my mother, allowed for that kind of the ability to dream and to be a supporter of the dream.
My final question for you, and Anthony Gargano is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Is your dad has called into your radio show in the
Oh yeah,
past,
yeah, yeah.
and he's grilled you about your take on Carson Wentz, among other things, and he's a big supporter. What's the most critical thing he's ever said about you as far as like how you handle things on the air?
Oh, he crushes me, man. I mean, it's born out of love, but let me tell you, like there was one time, so I used to be an anchor on the local Fox affiliate,
Mhm.
right? And it was one of those days where these days are right. There was a football game. There's a basketball. I had to do a pregame show. I did like 17 shows during the day,
Mhm.
and then we had an extended sportscast for the 10 o'clock news. So it's like 10:30 to 11, and I'm doing the sportscast, and it's probably like right now, where you haven't slept in a couple days, and you're beat up, and you got stubble, and my father goes, "Man, you were horrible tonight. You look terrible." But he'll tell you when you're good, so at least
Okay, well, that's good.
like when you're good, he'll go, "I was excellent," and he is a big supporter, and from that standpoint, and so it's a good thing because he's honest.
Well, at least he's fair, and at least he has fun with you, and maybe he keeps you a
Yeah,
little
he's
bit.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he keeps you a little bit humble sometimes.
exactly. Oh yeah, no, he's a ball breaker. Yeah, exactly.
Anthony Gargano, thank you so much for doing this. I'm
Oh,
Bryan
my
Fenley.
brother,
It's been
what a
it's been
pleasure.
fun diving into your career, man. I appreciate you.
I thank you so much for thinking of me, man. You're the best, brother. Thank you.